Welcome everyone, I'm Shadow Writer, and writing is hard. Writing someone else's book is even harder, and writing Game of Thrones is nigh impossible. Two skilled writers failed when trying exactly that, so how could I possibly succeed? I probably won't, not without actually thinking about what I'm going to write. To begin, this video will contain light spoilers for the books. I will be covering a lot of questions I plan on answering within the series, and these questions might give away information that you wouldn't want spoiled. If you haven't read the book yet, I really recommend you do, because the books are incredible, and I recommend you stop right now. If you worry about things getting spoiled, really, here's your spoiler warning. Stop the video, buy the books, read them. Prophecy is about predicting the future. Within my channel, this will be the process of actually thinking about what I might write. All the paths the future of A Song of Ice and Fire can hold, because undeniably there are almost endless possibilities for The Winds of Winter and A Dream of Spring. Say what you wish, but there are far more possible ways the future can unfold than I could ever reasonably hope to discuss. Take, for example, Old Town. Sam could see Euron coming, or not. Sam could flee from Euron, or not. The Hightowers could see Euron coming, or not. Sam could warn the Hightowers, or not. Euron could win the Battle of Blood, or not. Euron could use Krakens, or not. Euron could use some dark ritual, or not. Aeron could use some dark ritual, or not. Aeron could escape, or die. Euron could continue on to Old Town, or not. Euron could be killed in Old Town, or, as always, not. We simply do not know what is to come. That is part of the fun of actually reading the books when they finally come out. Until that time, we have to guess. All these questions are extremely important for who these characters might become and if these characters will end up as corpses. And all these fundamental questions will be answered within the first chapters of The Winds of Winter. If it's already so hard to predict what will happen in the beginning, I have to ask, what will happen after? There are simply near infinite possibilities. Thus, we cannot hope to discuss them all. I am going to have to make difficult choices, especially in the early days of my channel, about what I'm going to discuss and what I'm going to ignore. I want to make actual progress on writing my book, so for now I'm only going to discuss what I actually expect will happen in the story. Take the example I just gave, Old Town. Though it would be really interesting if Sam escaped, I expect it won't happen, and at least for now, I will not discuss what this will mean for the story if he did. If later on it turns out the path I chose for Sam wasn't entirely ideal, I could always check on other options, like this one. And even if everything turns out perfect, I'm still always interested in looking at other options and evaluating what they could mean for the story. Especially if these plot points really affect the entire story of The Winds of Winter and could turn my entire plans upside down. The thing is, even if I discuss every single possible theory, I am only able to write a single version of the book, or else would be here for decennia. I am inevitably going to refuse theories, even if they would be completely sound, for the simple reason that I need to actually craft a complete narrative. This process of choosing which theories to use or which theories to ignore will be part of writing, but I really wanted to stress that simply because a theory is discussed within prophecy doesn't mean I'll actually include it within the books, just to get us on the same page here. When making lore videos, I am going to have to make assumptions. Some of these will be backed up by other lore videos, but some of these will, as like as not, be false. The thing is, when trying to build a complex path for the story to go, you need to make assumptions. Some of these will be verifiable, but some of these won't be. I simply need to make assumptions to create any possibly accurate version of the future. Take, for example, Littlefinger. Maybe he has a long-term plan. Maybe he's just opportunistic. Realistically, the former is a lot more likely, but even so I will assume the latter, or at least in my first couple of videos. This is because taking Littlefinger's long-term plans into consideration would make everything a lot more complicated and everything would take a lot longer to get done. I haven't done a series on Littlefinger's long-term plans yet, and until I have, I cannot take them into consideration. Once I actually do get around to making those videos, I'll try to fill in holes that those assumptions left. Because don't get me wrong, I'm trying to fill up all those assumptions so every aspect of the story is explained. This means that some theories which I thought were true when analyzing the assumptions turn out to be false, and that will be fine. I will simply have to reshape those videos based on the new information and rewrite those chapters based on those videos. This will, of course, be a lot of work, but it will be worth it if we actually hope to write a realistic imitation of a George R. R. Martin book. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to make any completely ridiculous assumptions. If I expect the assumptions hold completely no ground, and thus the story I'm presenting would never come to pass, what's the point in presenting the story in the first place? Unlike some other writers, I actually want to make sure that all my plot points make sense. To make sure my assumptions always hold at least some ground, I will try to make my assumptions simplifications of what I actually expect. In the case of Littlefinger, I'd simplify his entire complex motivation into gaining power and loving Sansa. Or actually loving Catelyn. Littlefinger is weird. Of course, this simplification is probably false, but it's a good starting point if we want to understand Littlefinger's actions and if we want to predict what he is going to do. Using this, we can, for example, conclude that Littlefinger would never marry Sansa off to the Boltons. It's a quick way to ruin the chances of Littlefinger actually being able to wed Sansa. Even though we know that this is not the full extent of Littlefinger's motivations, we can debunk this specific theory. That is what I hope to be able to do with these assumptions. Make or break theories without actually having to spend weeks detailing exact motivations if a reasonable assumption would be enough. If you hadn't realized already, I care a lot about character motivation. A character should always be motivated to do something within the plot. If a character has to do something stupid or out of character for them just so the plot can progress, that's simply bad plot. However you might phrase it and hide the fact that it's bad plot, it will always stay bad plot, just polished bad plot. So whenever I make a theory about a possible future, I try to make sure that it fits within the characters we've seen from the other books. I try to make sure that every action a character does either fits within their short-term or their long-term goals, if they even have long-term goals. In addition to fitting within character motivations, every theory I craft must also make sense within a logical standpoint. Everything has to be reasonable, and I can't just be making up random plot points because I want them to happen. Take, for example, Sam. He could become this super buff knight who is Azor Ahai and saves the world. Except, of course, that wouldn't make any sense. That is simply not how Azor Ahai works, and that is not how Sam is portrayed within the books. It is a truly ridiculous theory, though it would make sense from a motivational standpoint. If it were possible, Sam would undeniably become Azor Ahai and save the world. If a theory passes both of these criteria, I'd consider it a valid theory, and I might make a video on it. Remember, I do not have an endless amount of time, but I will do my best to cover as much as possible. Still, I am a huge fan of quality over quantity. I will try to thoroughly analyze every subject to cover and actually discuss all aspects of it, above trying to spam out as much content as possible. Of course, even with my best efforts, I will forget or leave out some detail, but I will do my best to cover everything as thoroughly as I can. Now that you hopefully know what to expect, when will I actually upload prophecy videos? As it stands, I will be uploading one prophecy video every 2 weeks, covering different topics every time. Because I'm still working on introducing everything, the first prophecy video will come out in 2 weeks. We will start our journey of actually writing the books with Sansa, or Elaine Stone as she's called in that point in time. Why? Well, because it's probably one of the most interesting yet separated storylines within the Winds of Winter. Thank you for watching, I really appreciate it. If you want to see the other introductory videos explaining each of the other things within my channel, click on the links on screen. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to leave a like. If you didn't enjoy this video, feel free to leave a dislike. If you want to see more, feel free to subscribe. Thanks for watching, have a good day.